Have you ever noticed how obsessed we are with future-proofing our lives? I mean, we buy insurance, we pad our savings accounts, we stockpile supplies. It feels like if we can just build a high enough wall around our lives, nothing bad can touch us.
Absolutely. It's the modern condition, isn't it? We crave control. But what's fascinating is that this isn't modern at all. It's an ancient anxiety.
It really is. I've been looking at this text from Luke, specifically chapters 12 and 13, and it hits this nerve so hard. It starts with this scene where thousands of people are trampling over each other just to get close to Jesus, and in the middle of that chaos, he tells a story about a rich guy who seems to be doing everything right, at least by our standards.
Right, the rich fool. It's such a striking parable because on the surface, this man is a success story. His land produces a bumper crop. He's hit the jackpot, and his reaction is purely logical. I don't have enough room for all this wealth, so I'll tear down my barns and build bigger ones.
Exactly. If he were a CEO today, he'd be on the cover of Forbes. The expansion strategy, but the text twists it immediately. He has this internal monologue where he says, "Soul, you have many goods laid up for many years. Take your ease, eat, drink, and be merry."
And that's the trap. Notice the pronouns. My crops, my barns, my grain, my soul. He's completely isolated. He thinks his security comes from his surplus. But then comes that chilling reality check. God says, "You fool, this very night your life is being demanded of you." It exposes the absurdity of thinking material accumulation can solve the problem of mortality.
It's terrifying because it's so relatable. We all have our version of bigger barns. But then, immediately after shattering that illusion of control, Jesus pivots to something completely different. He points to ravens and lilies.
The contrast is jarring, isn't it? You go from a guy stressing over construction projects to birds that don't have a warehouse in sight. The argument isn't that we should be lazy, it's about where we place our value. He says, "Consider the ravens, God feeds them." And then he asks that piercing question, which of you by being anxious can add a single hour to his span of life?
That's the heavy hitter. Anxiety feels like work. It feels like we're doing something about the problem, but it's actually useless friction.
Precisely. It's burning energy without producing motion. And he takes it a step further with the lilies of the field. They don't spin or toil, yet they look better than King Solomon in all his glory. The point is that if God clothes the grass, which is here today and burned tomorrow, why are we so convinced we've been abandoned? It's a call to shift from a mindset of scarcity to a mindset of trust.
But here's where the tension ramps up, because if you stop reading there, you might think the message is just, don't worry, be happy. But later in chapter 12, the tone shifts from relax to watch out.
Oh, it definitely takes a sharp turn. The comfort of the lilies is balanced by the urgency of the thief. He starts talking about being dressed for action, keeping lamps burning. It's this imagery of servants waiting for a master to return from a wedding feast. You can't just be chilling, you have to be alert.
It's a paradox. Don't be anxious, but also don't get comfortable.
I think the distinction is between worry and readiness. Worry is fear-based paralysis. Readiness is active engagement. He warns that if the master comes back and finds the servants drunk or beating each other because they thought they had plenty of time, the consequences are brutal.
Cut in two. That's the phrase used. It's incredibly graphic.
It is. And it leads to that famous principle, to whom much is given, of him will much be required. This isn't just about religious duty. It's a profound statement on responsibility. If you have knowledge, if you have resources, you are held to a higher standard. Ignorance is a partial excuse, but willful negligence? That's dangerous ground.
Speaking of dangerous ground, let's slide into chapter 13, because the crowd brings up a current event, a tragedy. Pilate had slaughtered some Galileans while they were worshiping. It's gruesome. And the implication from the crowd seems to be, these guys must have been terrible sinners to deserve that, right?
That is the default human setting. Karma. If something bad happens to you, you must have done something bad. We love that logic because it makes us feel safe. I'm a good person, so buildings won't fall on me.
But Jesus shuts that down immediately.
Hard stop. He brings up another disaster, the Tower of Siloam that fell and killed 18 people. He asks, "Do you think they were worse offenders than everyone else in Jerusalem?" No. He strips away the idea that tragedy is a direct calculation of personal sin.
That's comforting and terrifying at the same time. It means we aren't safe just because we're good.
Exactly. But he pivots it back to urgency. He says, unless you repent, you will all perish just like them. He's saying, don't look at the victims and analyze their sin. Look at your own mortality and realize you're living on borrowed time.
And to illustrate that borrowed time, he tells the parable of the fig tree, a barren tree that's been taking up space for 3 years. The owner wants to cut it down.
But the gardener steps in. And this is such a beautiful picture of mediation. The gardener says, Sir, let it alone this year also. Let me dig around it and put on manure. It's a stay of execution. It's grace, but it's grace with a deadline. It's not let it sit there forever. It's let's give it one more chance to produce.
That digging around and adding manure, that's not a pleasant process. It's disruptive, it stinks, but it's necessary for growth.
Right. Sometimes the difficult things in our lives are the gardener digging around the roots, trying to wake us up before it's too late.
I want to touch on one more major image before we wrap up. The narrow door. Someone asks him, Lord, will those who are saved be few? It's a numbers question. They want statistics.
And he refuses to give a number. Instead, he gives a command. Strive to enter through the narrow door. The word strive there is agonizomai. It's where we get the word agonize. It implies an athletic struggle.
Why is it narrow? Is it because God is trying to keep people out?
I don't think so. I think it's narrow because you can't fit through it with all your baggage. You can't fit through the narrow door while carrying your bigger barns, your ego, or your self-righteousness. You have to drop everything to get through. And the scary part is, he says many will try to enter and won't be able.
And then the door shuts. That scene where people are knocking saying, hey, we ate and drank with you. We heard your podcast. We went to your seminars.
And the reply is, I don't know where you come from. Proximity isn't the same as intimacy. Just being around the truth isn't the same as being changed by it. And then comes the great reversal. People coming from east, west, north, and south to sit at the table, while the insiders are thrown out. Some are last who will be first, and some are first who will be last.
It completely upends the social hierarchy. The people who think they're in are out, and the outsiders are invited in.
It's the ultimate disruption. And it culminates in that heartbreaking lament over Jerusalem at the end of the text. Jesus compares himself to a hen trying to gather her brood under her wings.
That's such a vulnerable image. You expect a lion or a warrior. But a hen?
It's maternal and protective. But the tragedy is in the response. And you would not. It's not that they could not. They would not. They refused to be gathered. They preferred their exposure to his protection.
So we have this journey from the rich fool building barns to keep safe, to the people refusing the safety of the hen's wings. It's like we are constantly trying to save ourselves, but our methods just leave us more exposed.
That's the irony. We build barns that rot, but we reject the kingdom that lasts. We fear the men who can kill the body, but ignore the one who holds eternity.
It really forces you to ask, what am I building right now? Am I building a barn, or am I striving for that narrow door?
And are you awake? Because the recurring theme here is surprise. The thief comes when you don't expect. The master returns when you don't expect. The tower falls when you don't expect. The only logical response isn't anxiety. It's readiness.
Readiness and, I suppose, a bit of humility, realizing that our control is an illusion.
Absolutely. The text ends with a warning, but the offer still stands. The door is narrow, but it is open. The gardener is still digging. The question is, will we bear fruit?
A heavy question, but a necessary one. We'll leave it there for today. Plenty to think about next time you see a bird or a construction site.
Indeed. Keep your lamps burning. If you have been blessed by this, please like, subscribe, and share this joy with others. God bless.